this lady who runs that. Waiting area.
So, thank you.
Guess where mine is?
Okay.
I have a PowerPoint. Okay, you'll want to give it to Eddie up there. He'll run it on his computer. Eddie, right there.
I'm sorry? He's in the Department of Economic Opportunity, and they have a PowerPoint.
Okay, but that would be on your computer, not mine.
Oh, because you're broadcasting. I'm sorry, we're live casting. I forgot.
He's new to this. Thank you, sorry. I'm sorry?
He's in the Department of Economic Opportunity, and they have a PowerPoint.
Okay, but that would be on your computer, not mine.
Is this coffee perfect?
Well, I guess you'll find out. I don't know. Ostensibly, yes. I was
All right. Let's take a seat, everybody, so we can get the show going, and then we can. And I think it's going to take us more than an hour long.
Bye, Eddie.
Bye, Mayor. Bye, Bill.
How you know when it's ready? When the light's on?
You think?
Ask her. She just had some. Now let's see if we're streaming good here. It's pretty good. Not too bad. Mary has a touch, huh?
Agenda and slide and stuff like that. You don't have any projectors? I don't have any.
Okay, no, sorry.
All right, folks. Good evening. Let me take a moment just to do some quick introductions. You have our board, Letty Price, Tim Price, and Bill Lagoon. Eddie Arenda, and we are the Wiseburn Watch board for 2022 and 2023. The agenda for tonight, and I apologize, I think it's snafu on my part. We didn't bring slides this evening. We will go over the crime stats for April. We have no slides. Yeah. Go ahead and introduce law enforcement. We'll have some updates from the second district. We have the Department of Economic Opportunity joining us tonight. And also to start, we'll give Dr. Blake Silvers a few minutes to address us. Silvers?
Oh, right, to start.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, start.
I thought it was fun.
Put you at the top of the list.
All right, fair enough. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Always like to come out to these events and be able to.
This is like just because we're live streaming.
It's always nice to come out and be able to share, district news with you all and be able to answer questions. Really wanted to spend some time today to talk about our bond measure that we're going to be receiving. I'll give a kind of an overview of where we are with that, some of our initial projects, and all of that. So just to know, tomorrow morning actually, we're going to be selling our first bond series, and we're looking to have our money, the first round of money, the first series measure, Series A, in our coffers probably in about 3 weeks. So early June, maybe that second week in June. In the meantime, we did assemble our Citizens Oversight Committee for the bond. That group is meeting on June 1st. For the first round was over oversight responsibilities, advisory responsibilities, and so forth, as well as starting to unroll some of our first projects. Project number one is the 135th and Aviation Field Site. That'll be turned into a multi-purpose field, softball, baseball, it'll likely be a synthetic field, and some soccer. So we'll sort of extend the footprint of Dana Middle School to the west. I think that's to the west. And then just allow for us to then start refurbishing or redoing some of our other fields as we let that one's done. Again, that would be the first round. Also, part of that first round will be ANZA and 138th Street and full modernization of those school sites, HVAC systems, some flooring systems that are now, there's a lot of moisture, especially under the ANZA building, that have caused some issues with the flooring there, so we'll be replacing that, as well as some of the furnishings and audiovisual equipment. That'll all be presented to the Citizens Oversight Committee, and we're going to have a lot of updates I'll be able to present to you all as well on your monthly meetings or your regular meetings as well. So that's that. Any questions about that? No? Okay. Also then I want to share, there is messages going out about the district is starting a high school, and I just want to say some of that information is being disseminated somewhat inaccurate. I will say, yes, the district is looking at an option to start a high school. The district is not evicting Da Vinci schools from a building. We will continue to work with Da Vinci to find ways to better support that partnership, to find win-win opportunities for that partnership, as well as being able to establish, what was a promise to the community several years ago as a district-run high school. So looking forward to those conversations, looking forward to helping spearhead that partnership and spearhead the opportunity to start a high school here, from a district-run high school here. We'll have a lot of opportunities for families to come in and share insight, share input, and then be able to, be excited with us for an opportunity that we may have. So that's all I have today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Kind of great.
Hi, as a parent of a current literacy communication student, I know that my child has through that moment receiving emails. I've forwarded her the email that you sent, so she can get both information. I think one of the main things that people want to know is more of a timeline, because I know it won't be voted for the unification and that my child is in kindergarten. We still have the Wiseburn High t-shirt, right? Because that's where my child was going to go, was to Wiseburn High.
Right.
So I think what people are looking for is more of a tentative timeline, just to ease their anxiety, because, my child's like, okay, I told you if it doesn't work out, we're going to go look for another school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not going to happen so fast, but I just want confirmation from you. What are we looking at in terms of a timeline?
Yeah, timeline's probably several years. I would say that students that are in school now, that are in high schools now, it should be largely untouched for years. I think there's a lot that has to go into this. There's a lot of conversations that have to happen, a lot of discussions that have to happen, a lot of decisions that have to be made. So I feel that we're talking down the road. Yeah, and we'll do something definitely more for. I know that doesn't give you that specific, but it is a process. For
I
sure.
understand that. I want to be able to communicate that to my child.
Sure.
I understand that.
Yeah.
However, she is in this freak out moment
Right.
where I've got a project and PLL and that coming up, and now they're telling us they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where there's a lot of information coming out from members of the community just in this stressed out situation, getting information and not having as much information as you might.
And I did do a good job also communicating with my own child who's at Da Vinci as well, and has had her freak out moments today as well. So I'll just to be perfectly honest, as a father, I completely understand. Any other questions? Hi, Derek.
When is the announcement going to be of the changes for the schools?
Probably a couple months. We're thinking May 25th. I don't want to give away what the results are as of yet. We did receive about, I want to say 1,900 responses, which is, more than we receive on any of our, this is probably 5 times more than we receive on any of our surveys that we send out, even for operational, strategic planning for the district. We get 300. For this, we got 1,900, something like that. So I believe we're going to present the findings to the board at the May 25th meeting, but that's just the findings. That's an advisory vote that goes to the board. There'll be another 1 or 2 meetings after that where we'll have to consider names. There may be something where there's a couple slates of names, and the board may want to slide some different names across. That's within their purview. I don't know that's going to happen, but I would say that we're looking at least 3 board meetings, which puts us into July. we'll talk. I'm
And
sorry.
my one question was, are we looking downstream that if we do this, also is gonna be asking more money to tear down the building, or are you planning to?
Our goal is not to build anymore. No more buildings. Yeah. Not saying no more building. We may have to do some fixing of buildings, but we're not no more building of buildings. I mean, you know, not to my knowledge whatsoever. I don't see a need for more buildings. Yes.
I do have one question
Yeah.
I can ask right now.
Sure.
First, you know how I feel about this. This is the best news I've heard in a long time. My son is now like a freshman in college. What about the site at Deli?
In terms of,
Are you asking them to move the next to, or no?
no, we have not asked that. I know right now
But-
I'm sorry. I
Well,
didn't
it
mean to-
sure looks from his email was a lot different than your email. It sounds like they're really upset, so they pull everybody.
I mean, that would be a decision that they have to make. I mean, I don't know how
Okay,
that's.
so that's not-
No, that's not part of the plan. The plan at Del Air
Just
site for
curious.
us is just the field. You know, our plan is to build the baseball field and the softball field there.
And if they did vacate, you never know, we might be able to go back to those plans of it being all sports fields for the high school. Just saying.
All right. I'll know
Don't
that.
forget.
Yeah. How are you? Good.
So when are you planning on
The field?
Yeah.
Ideally, I was in the kind of under the impression we couldn't do it this summer. I was told that I'm too ambitious. So we're looking at probably October-ish, maybe November, that we would be able to break ground. And it's a pretty quick spin, it's not a huge project. It's just a field, so I mean, there's some groundwork, and obviously they're gonna have to put some bleachers and a little restroom facility and so forth. But, it's really gonna only be a few month process to actually get it up and done. Yeah, at least that's initial conversation. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done, yeah.
Do you have any jogging or walking around?
We didn't, that's not in the plan. It could certainly be brought up with the oversight committee. I mean, because what we're doing, the first part of the process for that field, just so everybody knows, is what's called the design phase. So they'll design different options. They'll give us, an array, maybe 2 or 3 different options or models, by which we can take to the board and present, and then we'll go and build. So, I mean, we could certainly share that is there a walking space. It wasn't big enough. I mean, we did the initial, layouts. It wasn't big enough to actually do a full walking path without removing the shop, where our maintenance and operations are. So it wasn't gonna work, but, something smaller, I mean, it could be something that's considered, sure. I can definitely bring it up. Sure. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bill, my apologies, but we don't have a slide for tonight, so you're gonna have to talk, and there are people online.
First off, let me welcome our newest Highway Patrol Cops Officer, Officer Gonzalez. He's going to be working with Officer O'Day. Want to say a few words for yourself?
Hello, everybody. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Officer Gonzalez. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in West Lake for 13 years now. I just recently took over this new position that was vacant. It's my second week on the job doing this counting. So I'm learning as I'm going, and my partner after our first day, he's actually on vacation. So once he comes in, I'll be able to work alongside with him, and we're working alongside with Bill and everybody else, the sheriff department, and trying to make sure that we get all the issues traffic-wise from our side. Other than that, I look forward to working with every single one of you and being a part of the team.
Apologize for having no slides, you guys, hang on a second. But I'm sure most of you saw the crime stats that was sent by email. We did have an increase in robberies, and we had 1 homicide in that neighborhood. You might have any questions on that, or anything about it, or anything? It was a family dispute, father, son shot and killed his father. On 141st. Okay, you guys have any questions for CHP? I apologize, the sheriff couldn't make it here. Lieutenant Chang, last minute had to do something, so he couldn't make it. Any questions for the High Patrol? You guys are good? Any questions? Go ahead.
I just had one, and that is, with all the news out in all of Raleigh County about taking into account about homeless encampments on the freeway. Is there any changes coming as far as our area? The enforcement?
No, sorry, I'm the sergeant. I actually oversee our community policing for the area, so I just wanted to come to the event with him, with Officer Gonzalez. But no, in regards to that, so our focus hasn't changed. We identify problems, but they're specific to the state property. That's the one contingency that we have as our department is that we focus on the encampments that are on state property.
Yeah, they're the ones that keep setting fire to.
Yeah, we actually just had one. We have one right now that we're putting out on the collector right near Century to Pole 5. It's an ongoing issue that we're trying to deal with. It's just hard to stay up with it because it's every time you clean one up, 4 or 5 more start up again in another spot, or a week later they come back at the same spot. So we haven't changed our stance, and we still identify if there's an issue and a safety issue, we immediately notify Caltrans, and then we get Caltrans involved, and then obviously there's other agencies, entities that get involved to assist them in trying to find them alternative living situations, mainly shelters or other housing options. So our process hasn't changed, and our stance hasn't changed. No, the one thing that I can say is, other than maybe some of the, I guess, administrative stuff as far as how we address the problem may have changed slightly, but we haven't changed the stance that we are trying to do what we can, try to clean them up, make things safe. Obviously, we don't want, because with homeless encampments on state property comes pedestrians on freeways, and it's a whole lot of issues, fires, that kind of stuff that could eventually, there's a lot of property that butts up against the communities, especially right here. We have a lot of communities that butt up against the freeway, so it directly affects those properties. So our stance hasn't changed. Yeah.
Anything else? Jared, have you got a question?
Yeah. I'm not sure who is really responsible, but it's probably the sheriff's. But it's people parking in the red on the corner of Engel and 137th Place. They used to be running to the pot shop. Now they're running into the smoke shop or running to the pot shop on 137th Street. I was making a right turn yesterday, and some guy's parked in the red. He can't go forward, there's a car, so he backs up almost into me. It's not the first time, the second, or the third. And I brought this up numerous times. I see no CHP, I see no sheriffs ever in the area.
I think that's the thing that is probably but it's something that we can't just drive by there and figure it out. It's just something that we could definitely do in the future here from out now. But what I was going to say on there in Los Angeles, if people are parking in the back, we should definitely, we'll do our best to control the area.
Add that to your bucket list.
Yeah.
Once we said legal. Great curve.
Yeah, I think we'll confirm, but like you say, that it's potentially an Inglewood PD.
No.
First place
It's
for
either sheriffs
140.
or CHP on it.
141st place.
137th place.
Oh, it's 137. I'm sorry, I heard 147. Okay. Yeah, then like I said, you can drive by and take a look. I mean, it's one of those things where if somebody's there, we'll address it. If they're not, it can be just periodic. That's kind of what the purpose is that we find trouble areas and we just try to patrol them, even if we're not, seeing the violations specific. It's in the
This was going on when
Yeah.
Blaze came to the meetings. And he had been here, what, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, easily a couple of years, yeah.
And it's just an ongoing issue.
Yeah, the tough part about those red zones, like you're talking about, is that because they're running in and running out, it's all timing for us, because, I mean, yeah, we can sit there and then during that time that we're there, nobody's gonna park there because obviously we're there, and then as soon as we leave and nobody sees us, they're gonna pull in. So it's, a lot of it's timing. Unfortunately, red zones are really hard for us because it's not like stop sign, or speeding or other things where we know that we can be out there pretty consistently any time of the day and show, show enforcement and in-view patrol and those kind of things. But I mean, it's definitely something that like I said, Officer Gonzalez will look at and, we'll do our best.
My thing is, you're never gonna catch anybody if you don't patrol.
True. Yeah, and that's.
I lived here in San and only one time that I see a CHPD roadblocks trying to catch somebody running stop signs on Shoot and 137. I mean, I feel we are totally neglected because the crime is low. But that to me is not right. There are issues that need to be resolved. And it's been brought up
Well,
numerous
in,
times.
in all fairness, I think every community would like to see the police as much as possible. Unfortunately, times are now where everybody's pretty much thin. Charles does make his rounds very well. I see him all the time. So, he's out there doing his thing as much as he can. But you guys have you got to deal with. You got other areas. You got in reporters area. We have a lot of areas to cover. But they do come through. You just got to be at the right time to see them. And all we can do, the area is just constantly make them aware of the areas that are an issue to us. Like your red curtain. Officer Gonzalez will do his best when he's around here to check on them. He kept somebody there, great. Yeah, no one's there, no one's there. It's tough, I get it, I do, I get it. I have a pet peeve with people parking in the cutouts of the walking path. I see it about 100 times a day, it drives me nuts. All we can do is try. Day in, day out.
Can you give us a phone number to call?
Yeah, I mean, you can call our station, it's 310-642-3939. You can ask for Officer Gonzalez if he's not there, because obviously he's going to be out patrolling the majority of the time. You can leave a message, it'll get to him, and then, even with just a basic traffic complaint, you can, and I usually work in the afternoons, but you can ask for me too, and then I will forward the information as well. Either way, whatever message you leave, any traffic issues or complaints that we get in any community, we forward it to Charles and Jaime so that they can put it to their records. So yeah, that's the best thing. And the only thing I can say is that phone number is available 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, but that's the only caveat to it. But that's
Thank you.
yeah. Yes, sir.
And one thing you said, going back to the red curve, you said if you park there, they're not gonna park. That doesn't stop them. I've seen it where sheriff has been parked there inside the Mexican restaurant, and they're still double and triple parking. They not only park in the red, they double park at that corner.
Okay.
On 137 and on Eagle.
Okay. Yeah, we'll.
They don't care. They don't care if you guys are there or not. They're gonna park there.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I've seen it not even just in not even specifically that location. In other locations, you could be standing right there, and somebody will pull up in the red, and they'll get out and start walking away to go pick up their food that they ordered 5 minutes ago, or go in somewhere, and they just give them a choice. You give them a choice. If you don't make contact, the thing is, if we don't make contact with them, they will do it.
Yeah.
Like if the sheriffs are inside a restaurant and they don't come out and talk to them, they will do it because they'll roll the dice that they're going to get in and get out before they get contact.
Well, I'm just saying, they see the black and white
Yeah.
there. They don't go specifically that they're in the restaurant, but they still do that one.
Yeah, true.
Even if they saw your motor units there.
Yeah,
What about them?
but the, the advantage with this is that, his focus is gonna be, unless he's writing a citation or dealing with somebody, he's actually gonna make contact with them. And either they're gonna leave or they're gonna get a ticket while they go inside. I think it's.
Can you tow
Huh?
them? Can you tow them?
No, you can't tow them. But parking in a red zone is still pretty expensive. There's not really a citation out there that isn't expensive these days, especially parking citations.
It's pretty much a hit and miss, huh? Because where I live, on 133rd in Inglewood, they always park in the red, but they also park right in front of the fire hydrant.
Yeah, that's another same
And
thing.
that one, they don't just park and then, for like 5 minutes in front of the fire hydrant. They're there all day and all night,
Well, yeah, and those are, if they're parking there long-term, like because they live in the area, they just don't feel like parking anywhere else because it's packed, then obviously that's where, a couple, citation will hopefully educate them. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, we want you guys to give us the information. I mean, it's really just about, us. That's the only way we're gonna know where the true, where some of the problems are that we aren't touching on. I mean, we know there's school zones and things like that we focus on, but we look to you guys to help us, find the other issues that are causing their potential traffic issues. Like Drake's saying, where they're backing out of the red, almost running into people trying to park there, or parking from a fire hydrant. I mean, don't get me wrong, a fireman will more than gladly poke a hole through somebody's car to put a hose on that fire hydrant and then put out a fire, but they don't really want to because it takes time, energy when they need to hook it up and put a fire out. So, we'd rather just not park there.
Yeah.
Believe me, they'll do it. I used to be a volunteer
Yeah.
firefighter back in Virginia.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
we had to do it numerous times.
It's a bucket list thing. It's a bucket list item. They all want to break somebody's
You run the hose right through the window, and then as soon as it's done, you have the tow truck sitting there waiting for them.
Yeah.
Anybody else, questions? We're good? We're good, okay, moving on.
All right, so I'm going to give the floor to, next on our agenda, to Ara Khan, our Deputy for Constituent Engagement in the 2nd District from Holly Mitchell's office. And she's going to introduce our guests for tonight as well as give us updates. Come on up. Hattie?
Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? You guys doing good? So yeah, as Eddie mentioned, I'm Ara from Supervisor Holly Mitchell's office. It's great to be here. And I know we have presentation from Department of Economic Opportunity, so I have a few updates for you. I just wanted to let you know that our office is working on Juneteenth event. So since Juneteenth became federal holiday a few years ago, we have it as an annual event. And this year, we're gonna have our Juneteenth event combined with Ciclavia, where you ride bicycles, and it's gonna be a really exciting event. And it will be on Sunday, June 18th. I know it's Father's Day, but we have programs that are available to celebrate our fathers. And I brought flyers, so I'll go around and pass this flyer to you all. And also, another thing I want to share is LA County Parks and Recreation. They have so many programs for our community, and one of them is free swimming classes. And I will also pass out this flyer, but this flyer has a link, which is reservations.lacounty.gov. And if you go here, you can look at free swimming class, not only for your children, young people, but also there's swimming class for adults as well. And we have various activities that is available for our community. And so I'm gonna pass this out. Even though this is a swimming class, feel free to visit this link and you'll be able to find so many programs that is available. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass this around. And I also wanna share that Wiseburn Watch board, I appreciate the board because the board, Department of Economic Opportunity team, and our office met together back in April. Now, we had so many inquiries on food trucks, street vendors, push carts, and what have you. And this has been ongoing, and in the past, there were several departments that were involved, such as Department of Public Health, and we used to have WEDAX, right? Workforce Development and Aging, what is it? Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services Department. But we no longer have WEDAX, and we began to have DEO from July of last year. So the system kind of changed, and I'm gonna pass it on to my colleagues at DEO, but they will be your first point of contact for any inquiries on food trucks, push carts, and street vendors and what have you. So I'm gonna pass the floor to them. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jamie Kelleher. I am Assistant Director of Economic Development in the Department of Economic Opportunity. I already just mentioned we're a new department we were just created last July. Some slides are coming up. This is a nice little group, I gotta say. I'm impressed that you guys had pizza. I saw refreshments were gonna be served. There's pizza and donuts, and the coffee was very nice. As I was back there, I could sneak a piece of pizza. I was very hungry, so I appreciate that. But thank you for having us here. So we wanted to come and just kind of talk about what we're doing in the county around street vending. We have a team in my shop, the Office of Small Business. So I'm going to provide a bit of an update on kind of what's going on, some of our efforts around engagement and working with the various departments around street vending, and then we'll have a little bit of an update on some of the specific engagement we've done in this area. Okay. So yeah, this is just really quickly about us, Department of Economic Opportunity. I'm not going to read all of this, but you can see here that we have a focus on small businesses, entrepreneurs, micro businesses, and that does include street vendors. And so we are there to provide services and support the street vending community, and to assist with pathways into entrepreneurship that allows us to be there for financial resiliency, but also to protect the health, safety, and wellness of the communities, right? So we're about helping bring people into compliance and make sure that they're doing things in the following the rules and regulations. You can see we've got I'm not going to read my vision and mission, but that's us. We're a new department just created last July. All right, so this is just, so we've got a couple of different phases around what we're doing with street vending. And so phase one there, it talks about authority from a board motion, directing DCBA, the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. That department still exists, but that's where the Office of Small Business used to be. That's now moved into our Department of Economic Opportunity. So now we've kind of taken over doing outreach, responding to complaints as well, engaging the street vendors. We have a focus on the unincorporated areas. And so I know we're here talking about kind of the Wiseburn and Delaware. All right. That is incredibly small. I know you can't read that at all. That's fine. I'll just go real quick. Just a couple of, just a little bit of a timeline, a little bit of context. There was SB 946. So blanking on the number. That decriminalized street vending. So that was a state Senate bill back in January 2019. So broadly decriminalized street vending across the state. I won't go through all of the timeline pieces there. July 2022, we already mentioned this when DEO came into being. SB 972, 472. 972, thank you. I get way too many Senate bills on my right now. SB 972, so that was it was just voted last November, so it came to being January 2023, and that also applies to street vending. And it provided some different pathways into permitted street vending and allowed some vending that doesn't necessarily need a permit if you're doing food that's prepackaged or not cooked. You can do like Whole Foods, fruits, those sorts of things. So those are just some recent laws. Those are statewide laws. Okay. There is flexibility around local jurisdictions to make up some of their own rules and regulations. In the unincorporated areas, that's of course the Board of Supervisors that is over the unincorporated areas of the county. And so I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. We are working on an ordinance And the our law, that goes into our county code, so those are our laws for the unincorporated areas around street vending. That's not in place yet, but that's something that we're working on. Okay, so current street vending efforts. So this is something that we're doing right now. We kind of head up, as Ara mentioned, we're kind of the point of contact, the main point of contact. We work with a lot of different departments. There's lots of different departments that have different points of engagement or authorities over different aspects of street vending. But we are the main point of contact where we can take complaints and referrals, they'll come to us. And so you can see there that, so referrals go to Department of Economic Opportunity when there's issues or complaints that come up. But we have an interdepartmental work group, and that is with Department of Public Health. When it comes to food safety issues, that's their jurisdiction. That's also the Department of Public Works when it comes to sidewalks, rights of way, streets, anything, ADA, American Disabilities Act, anything where you're walking sidewalks, that's Department of Public Works. We also have the Department of Regional Planning, which is around zoning, what you can and can't do in either a residential zone versus industrial or retail. So that's a large work group that we have that we work with and notify. So when things come in, we're working with them and letting them know what's going on. But again, we're first point of contact. What we do is we go out and within 2 weeks of receiving a referral, we plan a visit out to the site. And so we have a team. I have a team member here who's going to come up and speak later who goes out, either her team, she goes out herself sometimes, who goes out to the site and does an assessment. And then we make a plan around engagement. So depending on what the situation is, what's going on, how many vendors there are, we kind of make this plan around engagement for the site and for the particular issue. And so you can see there over a couple of months, we'll go and do education and outreach, depending on the circumstances. There's a lot of different issues that can come up. But our goal is to go out and work with the vendors to come into compliance. A lot of them don't know, there's a lot of different rules and regulations, and especially as you cross different areas. And you guys have the city of Hawthorne right here. They have their own ordinance around licensing and permitting street vendors. And then there's the unincorporated areas and then potentially other cities. So one of the things we go out and reach out to the vendors and provide education and outreach. And so you can see there a couple of months where we try to work with them and bring them into compliance when there are issues, try to address those issues. You can see there after those couple months, and it's not always 2 months, it kind of varies depending on the issue. If it's not resolved, then we have that work group where then we can escalate things and go into other compliance issues. So depending on what it is, it might be something in the Department of Public Health jurisdiction, it might be Department of Public Works, as I mentioned before. But then you can go out and potentially there can be an escalation there where maybe potentially they bring the sheriff. It's decriminalized. You can have fines that are put on. You can also seize equipment potentially. So there's different things that can happen. That's after we've gone out and tried to engage. And then just the closure there. That's just we close it once we've done all of these steps and then we report out on the Okay, so that was kind of phase one. That's ongoing right now with the engagement that we're doing right now and some of the referral process we have. Phase two, we have a program that is funded by the American Rescue Plan. That's ARP there, ARP, the American Rescue Plan Act. And so we have funding where we've been increasing capacity of our Office of Small Business to go out and engage these vendors. And we're also partnering with different organizations to go out and provide information, education and outreach to the vendors as well. And then we're also working on creating a blueprint for carts that are code compliant. They can have manufactured and actually delivered out to some of the street vendors. You can look at this. Okay, you see there some of the goals of what we're trying to do. So I won't walk through every single one of those, but what we're trying to do, again, is kind of to support financial resiliency, but help operations to follow health, safety, and wellness guidelines and protect the communities, helping out the vendors to be able to do business but do it in compliance. You can see that we're trying to increase awareness, so big part on outreach and education. You can see that we have a goal around 5,000 sidewalk vendors. So that's officially kind of our goal, but honestly, we want to reach all of them. We're trying to outreach to all of the vendors that we can, especially focusing on the unincorporated areas, but we also work with the city as well. There's another goal there about increasing access to 200 local street vendors for affordable code-compliant carts. So those are the carts that I mentioned, where we're working to develop, making sure that carts are compliant with all of the new laws that are coming out. And we're actually able to manufacture some of those and give them out to, we'll have a system where we're awarding them to some of the street vendors so that they have carts that are compliant. And then most of them are all about kind of partnering with education. So they're partnering with private street vendors, bringing them into gainful compliance. Again, that's an official goal of our program and what the funding is, but we want to reach all of the vendors. That's the goal broadly, right? We're trying to expand our capacity and our partners to be able to do that. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, so I think I already touched on a bit of this, so I'll go through this kind of quickly. Some of our milestones there where we have the work group. You can see there the names I mentioned. These are our acronyms and counties, so sorry about that. The DPH is Public Health, DPW is Department of Public Works, County Council, those are our lawyers for the county. Oh, I didn't mention TTC, the Treasurer and Tax Collector. So they actually do business licenses. And street vendors don't have to have a license, but like a food truck does. So food trucks operating in unincorporated areas have to have a business license. And that's done by the Treasurer and Tax Collector. And then DRP, that's Department of Regional. And then, so we are working on an ordinance now. We've been researching other jurisdictions and getting a lot of feedback. We're working with this interdepartmental work group to kind of put in what the ordinance is going to be around street vending in unincorporated areas. And it's probably going to be, where people have to come and register, get a registration so that they can operate in unincorporated areas. And then depending on what they're doing, they might potentially need a health permit as well. Anybody who's cooking, preparing food, you would need a permit from the Department of Public Health. That's the case now. But the ordinance will have rules and regulations around where you can operate and at what times. And so that is something that we're rolling out, and we're going to have, you can see there by September 2023. It's kind of a long process where it's going to be drafted, then it'll go before the Board of Supervisors. It'll be presented before the Board of Supervisors. First it's presented at one meeting, and then it's voted on and adopted at the following meeting, which will be 2 weeks later. And then there's a 30-day window where it doesn't become effective for 30 days after that. So that all will happen, in the fall, essentially, is when that ordinance is starting for being effective. Okay, and then the cart, I already kind of talked about that. There's just kind of a time frame around that where we're kind of producing those code compliant carts. All right, and then ongoing is our practice outreach. I already talked a bit about that, so I will skip that and go to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned, we're really focused on a lot of outreach and education, and we do respond to, we identify and respond to complaints, but then also these hotspots where we go out and make sure that we're hitting spots of line and engaging with the vendors and when their issues come. And I'm going to invite up actually Jessica Morales, who's going to come up and talk a little bit, because she is on my team who actually does some of this engagement, and she'll talk a little bit specifically around some of the engagement that's happened recently in the Wiseburn.
Hi everyone, thank you all for having us here. So I am in the Office of Small Business. Thank you. Sorry, I'm very short. So I'm in the Office of Small Business, and I head up the street vending activities and all of the engagement. So we're doing all of the triaging of complaints that we're getting through our office. We're conducting and scheduling outreach, and then we're also tracking and reporting all of the work that we're doing around that engagement. Next slide. So these are just some of the hotspots. These are the priority corridors where we've seen recurring complaints and where there are a predominant concentration of street vending. So we're talking about street vending in terms of having like 4 or 5 vendors in a particular corridor, blocking certain areas, blocking access to pedestrian pathways. We are escalating those by our interdepartmental work group. So we are still going out, we are still developing collateral and educational material that's relevant to the different issues that we're seeing, and it's kind of allowing us to catalog what those issues are. So what are we seeing as one of the critical issues? One of them is the blocking of pedestrian pathways, right? That's one of the biggest ones that we see most recurring. The other one is potentially hazardous food being prepared in an unsafe way. So this just gives you an idea of one district. Like, this is work that we're doing across all 5 districts with hotspots similar to this. So that brings us to Wiseburn. So we've been out about 3 times. We started at the beginning of the year with the initial assessment. We didn't see any vendors, so we were able to connect actually luckily with this watch group and were able to schedule a better time and place. So that's one of the things that we're seeing is that complaints sometimes come in very vague. So we don't know what time those vendors are operating. They're operating at all different times. They're operating across their different jurisdictional areas. So locating them has been part of that challenge that we've seen. We were able to make 2 successful visits where we actually were able to connect to the street vendors themselves. On the first visit, we did identify who those vendors were. We tried to get as much information about the vending community that was on site. We also provided them with informational and resource packets. Some of those I have here. So we're educating them on what is ADA compliance, what are the best practices for getting a permit. Getting a permit is really, really complicated in terms of the public health process is very lengthy. If you're not a native speaker, that can be a real challenge for you. So we're offering the assistance to get them permitted so that they're preparing food in an appropriate way. The third visit, we came back out. So we found 2 vendors in the second visit. On the third visit, we just conducted on Friday, and we saw only 1 vendor there. And it is the same vendor that we saw on the second visit, and who is also permitted and licensed. So 2 of the things that we identified with this vendor is that they're actually operated by the city of Hawthorne to be able to be a roaming and mobile vendor, meaning that they can only stop for point of sale. So we came back out, we let them know, hey, we verified this information with the city of Hawthorne. We let them know that you have a license, that you're operating in an unincorporated area, which again is decriminalized because of the state statute. And we are advising them on how to be in better compliance to avoid future complaints in the corridor area, and also create a more cohesive relationship with the communities that they're in. Also on the third visit, we had DPH go out on the 10th. So they went out on April 10th. They inspected the cart was fine. The food preparation was fine. They got a letter grade, so they were issued an A. So they're allowed to now prepare food on that cart appropriately. So they are still permitted to be able to sell the food that they're selling. The only real issue at this point is ensuring that they understand the roaming requirement, that you can't stop, you can't be stationary, you can't, post up on somebody's lawn, essentially. Escalation. So the next steps for us is reporting this all back. We've already reported it to the interdepartmental work group. We've reported it to the city of Hawthorne. We haven't identified that there are multiple vendors on this site, but that could be wrong, and I would defer to the group on this. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of identifying what's the next step for escalation in terms of if this person isn't roaming, do we continue to partner with the city of Hawthorne to identify what's next for their licensing process? This is somebody who's making a good faith effort to do everything they need to do to get to an appropriate public health permit and prepare safe food for the public. But they do need some help around the rules and regulations. So that we're still encouraging them to continue roaming. Are there any questions? Yes.
There are several questions, I think.
If I'm hearing this correctly,
I'm going to bring the you have to stand up because people are listening online. Thanks.
if I'm hearing this correctly, street vendors are legal in Wiseburn.
They're legal in the state of California.
Are there limitations on where they can camp out?
There are limitations that are up to local jurisdictions to establish. Within reason, within state compliance.
And in this case, we know we have issues with vendors who have been stationary in one spot in residential, and that's what what the district was saying is we work with them on, they need to be roaming, so they can stop at point of sale, they are allowed to go into those residential areas, but they can't just be stationary in one spot, they're supposed to.
Yes, this guy is stationary, he was stationary for 6 months.
The guy on 135th here?
Yeah. Okay, what are you doing?
Well, so that is, I believe, the individual that we have connected with and have talked to them about needing not to be stationary like that and to be roaming. So that's our approach there.
So what do you do? Say, please, sir, can you move? Where's the enforcement aspect of this?
So do the residents have any say if he comes up there? Say, I don't prefer you not be here?
I mean, not just in the area. I mean, they can't be, so there's challenges where, so in Hawthorne, this individual, at least that we went to, is licensed in Hawthorne, right?
Well, that's not Hawthorne. This isn't Hawthorne.
I know. So they have that license, and so what we're encouraging is to continue doing the roaming. In the county, in unincorporated areas, there's not a law that says that they can't be stationary or roam. We're encouraging them to be doing the roaming. There's not a law right now that says that they can't do that. So this individual that we're talking with, the team was talking with, is trying to comply and follow those rules, and so understood about wanting to roam around. There's not, though, because of the changes in state law, there's not a strong, that's why we're trying to work with them and try to get them to, work with what the community wants, that we don't want them there stationary. There's not a law that's being broken there, so it's limited on the enforcement piece of it. We're not an enforcement agency ourselves.
But the state decriminalized this in 2018, correct? And every other state, city, and corporate area I know in the state have dealt with this. Why hasn't LA County dealt with this? Why are we waiting all this time to finally deal with this problem? I mean, again, this is in front of someone's home, dude. Would you like this in front of your house?
We're in Holly's.
I don't think you would.
Yard.
No. I don't think you would. I mean, you guys, how do you preach equity? Where's our equity? We're the taxpayer. We are paying the bills for this stuff. And this guy sets up shop in our neighborhood in front of someone's home? Really? We're going to pay to give him a new car? Jesus Christ!
I understand.
Yeah. You look, yeah.
No, it was voted for. So this was something that you need to take up with the state. I think for us, one of the main concerns is oversaturation. I know you said right now they're not violating anything, but there was one day that my husband said there were 3, or there were 4 cars, or there's 2 and they're blocking. Today I was walking, and one of the main things is that there's a visibility issue. There is a 4-way stop at 135th and Ocean Gate. I had to walk out into the crosswalk. I wasn't going in that direction because there was a child trying to cross, and because the vendor was there and there was a lack of visibility and the car, So I think for me, one of the main issues is accessibility, being able to traverse through that area, and also lack of visibility for the vehicle. So for vehicular safety as well as pedestrian safety, that's the main thing. Once, the county gets it together and gets the ordinance and that, I'm okay. I just have these specific concerns because they do impact us in terms of navigating safely and having them.
Yeah, I hear that. I will say that part of the ordinance proposals that we're looking at and what a lot of other jurisdictions have done is increase certain egress rules so that it addresses things like the visibility or number of feet away from a stop sign or from school districts or things like that. That is very common in a lot of different cities. Very few cities completely disavow having vendors in residential areas. I haven't seen anything actually that has not allowed street vending in a residential area, at least as a roaming and during specific hours, similar to an ice cream truck or something like that, passing through. So that makes sense to me that that's a real concern. We've seen that in a lot of jurisdictional areas is the concentration. So maybe limiting the spacing between vendors and things like that. Those are all common also in other jurisdictional areas. So thank you for bringing that.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Chris.
Mondo just passed an ordinance for vendors. If you're not permitted or licensed, you leave the city.
So that's really key that they have to be permitted and licensed. So again, we're going to create a permitting or registration process. The license can be both by a city agency or by a county agency. That is exactly what we're proposing to do, is to create a licensing or registration process. And then the public health area is already allowing for permitting in all county jurisdictional areas.
What's the status of the ordinance? I mean, it's been years since this has been enacted and the state said it's illegal. So most cities are already up on it.
Yeah.
What can we expect now? Because it should have been implemented, or the old law should have been, as far as the licensing and permitting, it's on the books.
Yeah.
should have been allowed to continue to be enforced. Because licensing and permitting is licensing and permitting.
Yeah.
You're not saying you can't be there, but you have to follow the rules. And it's my understanding, it's all about the rules.
Yeah.
So it's very frustrating when somebody somewhere, the board, whoever it is, says don't enforce it anymore, when everybody else enforces it, so what's gonna happen? Water finds the easiest path.
Yeah.
So it's a big issue. So what's the status? How much longer do we have to wait for the ordinance?
So the status, and this was, so right now it's getting a lot closer. I know it's been a long time. Right now are looking at September for it being live and voted on.
And fully implemented.
Yeah, and fully implemented,
So that means October before it's enforceable?
that if it's
At
the
least?
second, if it goes, it might go in August or September. It's got 2 readings, and then 30 days after that. So that's what it's probably October.
So in this ordinance, what can you expect as a residential neighborhood, when it's all said and done?
So we're looking at, this is like most cities, including the city of Hawthorne, is that roaming aspect. You can, if it's residential, it's roaming. You can't be stationary like that the whole time. You have to move around. So it's like, it's just like an ice cream truck, where you're going through, you can sell things, but it's point of sale, where you sell and then you move on.
Is there gonna be a limited amount of vendors before this person to go back to TJ? I mean, are they gonna allow only so many, licenses?
Certainly in certain areas, and then the spacing, as far as a limit to the number of, I don't think, we can look at that as it comes in, but no, I don't think there'll be a limit on, how many can roam the grocery store. That's not something that's contemplated right now. But as far as the stationary ones, yes, there'll be limits on, where they have to be spaced out and how many can be on.
So we're gonna have roaming and stationary? Is that what you're telling me?
Not stationary, it depends on the area. So in residential, it would be roaming.
So you're saying there's no limit. That means we could potentially have 100, 200 roaming guys just in our area?
I don't see it being more than you would have now, but there's not going to be, we don't have a cap.
You don't know.
We can monitor that. We'll have the numbers, because that's the thing, now the officially registered, so we can be looking at that, and it's becoming a problem. It's certainly something we can visit. It's not, we don't anticipate that happening.
I guarantee it's gonna be a problem. Guarantee it's a problem in unincorporated, because we have, I'm gonna say, no representation. Because how we have the whole second district to look at, we are just a little tiny speck.
Gary, sorry to interrupt, but if you go to places like Florence, Firestone, and other places, the issue is
I don't live there.
that, and
I live in Wiseburn.
Exactly. So
That's
there
right
are
there.
many other communities that they're working on, so I just wanted to uplift that, and Theo's working really hard on this, and we have department positions and what have you, so I just want to let you know the issue is, like, we hear many concerns on other parts of the district, and some places are way worse, not to mention that Wiseburn is, that's bad, but then we are doing our best to, help them. Our team is here for a reason. That's why we came, because we want to help and make sure that the department communicates with you. That's why they're here today.
You're right, the county, the unincorporated area of the county is huge.
So I'm going to ask, we're going to follow Robert's rules of order. You can't speak on a whim just because you have a thought. You have to raise your hand. There are people listening to us online. We look like a disorganized group. Raise your hand if you want to talk. You'll be given time to talk, all right? And you'll be given a chance to respond. This is unkind to the people that are listening to us online, all right? Is there any other question? I don't mean to stop the questions, but.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Tim. Please.
So while you're working on the ordinance, how do we have input? How do we know what you're working on? How do we know what the verbiage or the draft is? And how do we have input to what that's going to be?
That's a great question.
Yeah. Well, so it does come before a public meeting that anybody is certainly welcome to come to, right? Where it goes before the Board of Supervisors, that's at a public meeting when it's first introduced. And then it's not voted on and adopted until the following meeting. You can certainly make sure that this group knows well in advance of when that is going to be scheduled. We can be posted on the scheduling of that. And that's why it's brought to the public and that's why there's also that, 30 days. Like there's a time when we go, we introduce it, and then it comes back for a second reading to be voted on, and we will certainly let you know that that's when
being here and hearing some of the primary concerns that were addressed today. So things like if you're concerned about the space safety, if you're concerned, our last slide has our contact information. I would urge you to reach out to our office and utilize that as forms of communication with our department. We are the ones leading this interdepartmental work group and addressing and adding in any specific regulations that are especially being called for by the residents is a very powerful tool. So please utilize that voice.
Me first, and then
No, I just want you to read off the number because it's very difficult.
I will. So I have two requests as I've been listening to this. I mean, one, trying to be pragmatic about it. Is there anything that we can do to try and enforce mobility today? Mobility of the vendor, because they're definitely, I mean, I don't know if you want to continue receiving pictures and notices from us, or if that's overwhelming between all the communities that you deal with. But I mean, these people walk, many of these people walk by her every day, and they feel like they're not heard, right? When we send, these guys take pictures every day of their kids walking to school. The vendors, sometimes there's one, you're right, there's one permanent, one that just doesn't close office hours, service hours there. He's there, mobile. And the other guy is right around the corner, right? They've called the police, they've come to an arrangement, they have a contract between them. There's a third one that sometimes positions himself there. So is there something that we can do between them? First request. And the second request is we want to see a draft. We'd like to see a draft. We'd like to be participants and comment on whatever it is that you're coming with. And we're happy to provide. I'll read off the email address and the phone number, and I'll send it via email as well for the people in this group, so you don't have to scribble things down. But we'd like to be, September voting is right around the corner, so I have to believe that you have some working draft of it. We'd like to provide feedback on it. Those are my two requests. Maria and then Greg.
Oh, I just needed to know this.
Oh.
Yeah, no, thank you. But I'll just respond a little bit. So, we'll talk with kind of the work group and see about, it's not around kind of sharing that draft work. So I appreciate that comment. We'll have some discussions around that. Certainly we can, happy to have more discussions about kind of what is in there. And it's just going to mention, like, this is part of why we're coming out here. We do want to have your feedback and be able to incorporate that in. But I will look into whether we can kind of release a draft or not. It's not my full call to make. So appreciate that. And then on the first one, so having the ordinance in place will actually be helpful around that stationary, versus roaming. Then that will grant more, authority there. Because right now it is challenging. There's not a law, a specific law that's preventing them from doing that. So that's why we're trying to engage them, talk to them, about not doing that, right? And trying to push them to follow what they have from Hawthorne and what is going to be the case in the inappropriate. So I know that's not what you want to hear, but right now there is some limitations. You can certainly, we will happily come out and continue to engage. After the ordinance is there, there's a little more weight then when they need to be registered. This individual, again, does have a permit and a license, so we're thinking that they would, want to be registered as well, and to be able to do that and stay in good standing, they would need the zone. And then we have some more, authority there and ability to take places. So I appreciate that.
So let me read out Maria, let me read out the number. The email address is OSB, O as in open, S as in Sam, B as in boy, at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Second email address is DEO, like the acronym for Department of Economic Opportunity, D as in dog, E as in network, O as in open, at opportunity.lacounty.gov. And the phone number is 844-432-4900.
Yes, getting back to Eddie's second request, as far as for a draft of that, I'd really like to see, because not a lot of us can make it to a supervisor's meeting to voice our opinions. So this would be our only way of saying, okay, yeah, we like this, or here's something else that's different. Secondly, you were talking about the permits or registrations for the vendors. I'm assuming that they have to have those posted, where they're visible and not just in a drawer someplace or in the back pocket. So if it's not posted, then technically they're illegal.
have to have them external, they have to be like, visibly. Oh, sorry. It's a good question. They have to have them available. I'm not sure they have to have it visibly posted. Yeah, certainly if they're preparing food and if they have a health permit for that, then yes, they have to post that letter. The registration is something that they may have to produce. They wouldn't have to visibly show it. It's not our yeah, not correct. That is.
But would that be the same thing as not posting health department grade?
Well, I mean, they can produce it. They potentially have to have it. And you'd be able to look up whether somebody is registered as well, so you can find that information. They don't necessarily have to post a license. I mean, that's yeah. But we can consider that as well. That's not something that is in most regulations now. But I appreciate that comment.
I see a little bit of a cataclysmic event happening because one, potentially we're going to be disenfranchised with all the, I don't know if you're aware of the new hot shops and the legal ones in the unincorporated areas, and then we're going to have all these vendors. So my question is, when you got the county gets all these funds, and we have this issue with maybe everybody's got munchies now, and we get too many hot shops, they're going to want these vendors around to eat. Just a thought, I guess. And I'm wondering, once they get, the county gets money, whatever they're trying to do with the county, who's going to regulate the enforcement of, like, if they decide to stop this spot right here? Because people come out, vaping or whatever they do, and then lunch. I mean, who's going to, I guess that's part of the job, who's going to be the enforcement agency that writing the ticket saying you can't stay here?
So I appreciate that. So first of all, it's not a ton of money that would come in. It just covers the administrative costs, basically, of the issuing the registration. So there's not it doesn't add to the county coffers, not the street vending and doing the registration. On the other side, though, again, it's going to depend on which element maybe that if they're in violation. If it's a food safety thing, then that's Department of Public Health. If it's blocking rights right away, then that's going to be Department of Public Works. So there are different agents potentially, but any of them can potentially come out with if there's violations that have escalated, then they could potentially come out with the sheriff's office who would come out, seize equipment or issue fines. Potentially, the Department of Public Works or Public Health could issue fines. So they'd be kind of the enforcement agent. Yeah. Although it depends. I mean, on the registration. That could potentially be us, or as we mentioned, there's the Treasury tax collector who does the licenses. So it kind of depends. It's a little bit nuanced depending on what type of vendor it is and what the violation is. But there are different agencies that have it.
I feel like it's a very weird way. Come here. Maybe it's not weird. I feel like you guys are subsidizing illegal businesses. I mean, there's a guy selling food in the corner of my neighborhood for cash. I can't do that. I have to go to work. I have to do my thing. I got to pay health insurance. I got to do stuff. And my home. We're all okay and all that. Be in front of people's houses. It bothers me. It bothers me. Be a homeowner, to have some guy, not in front of my house, but somebody I know, selling food on the street in America. It's just wrong. It's wrong. You don't need to ask me. I know what you're going to say.
Well, I'll answer it shortly. I appreciate the opinion. It's as you said, we're not subsidizing illegal selling because, as was mentioned, it was voted on by the state of California. There is a law that passed that says it's decriminalized. It's not. And I understand. I mean, that's not for everybody, right? That's the way the vote went, and that's what the law is now. So that's the parameters that we have to operate under.
Okay. Kind of a two-parter. A secondary issue with the vendors that come out is they come out and they park in our
it's probably not unlike others, but parking is a premium. So now we have somebody else park, not only is this guy in front of somebody's house now, but the same guy also parks his big white van about 2 doors down or so, and parks in front of their house all day. So, I mean, that's another issue with them. Or, is there an issue with companies dropping off vendors? If companies come with big flatbeds, which have been done before, and dump 6 or 8 or 10 in the community, and then come back later and pick them up, is that an acceptable practice? Is that something that you're going to license and let happen to communities? Because there's a lot of, that goes on too. It's another facet of this vending world.
So that actually brings up a really good point. One of the things that we're seeing a lot happening is that people are employees of larger companies. And these are employees that are not fully aware of some of the rights that they are entitled to as employees, regardless of their status. So that is something that, as the Department of Economic Opportunity, one of the unique things that the county did was put both economic development programming with workforce development. So we are looking at this from 2 sides, right? What does it mean to have bad actors in any industry? This is an industry like any other industry where there are bad actors who are taking advantage of different facets of rules and regulations and can, continue to do that until we set stricter guidelines. So our ordinance is one of those stricter guidelines. I think that's a really great point, and I think that's something that when we're designing the ordinance and continuing to process that, that is something that could be integrated into it. Is there a limit on the number of employees that you have? Is there a limit on your ability to license multiple carts and then permit? That's something that should definitely be considered. I appreciate that comment.
Or even the vendors, can the actual person selling the food or handling the food, do they need a health permit like they used to? So not only the cart, but the individual does too. So they have to present a cart.
So I will say the health code hasn't changed. So the SB 972, what it did do is that it did make it easier for the actual owner and operator of a cart or CMFO, which is a compact mobile food operation. It introduced that as a type of designation for food health permits. And it also requires any employees that are working to also have a food handler's permit, so that just like in a restaurant, you want to make sure that the facility is being handled appropriately, but also all the employees are being trained appropriately.
Art, did you have a comment? And then Bill and Craig, and we're going to close it for tonight because we have open items and announcements to make at the end.
Thank you. So several things. I'll start with the question first. So I appreciate Eddie because his last year, he forwarded communication with DPH in regards to street vendor. And Jessica, I think I relayed to you several times. And, we've been waiting for some changes to happen, right? So as you have seen, this is like a tip of the iceberg on the frustration from the community. So I'm glad that you're here to hear that, right? And I think the main email and phone number, it has been kind of difficult to get a response. So I was wondering what the turnaround will be, and if your constituents will hear back from those email addresses or phone number, what should they do? That will be my first question.
Yeah, well, I'll just respond to that. That's fair, and as we mentioned, one of the things we have been doing, the Office of Small Business is pretty small, and we're a new department, and we have been building and staffing up, so we have dedicated staff now around street vending. And so that has gotten better, and what's our average response time now? Do we have a number on that?
We're kind of making our jobs.
Yeah. So it should, yeah. So generally now, and we do recognize that it was slow in the past, but right now it's 24 to 48 hours of response time. We have hired additional staff. It was a struggle initially because we've been working to build our capacity. And I can't remember if there's another question. Oh, yeah, that's true. We're also excuse me. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Again, I really appreciate you for coming. I know this is outside of your working hour, but thank you for coming and presenting. So I really appreciate you to Lake County Department present to the community here. So thank you so much for that. And another thing is, we mentioned about community input, right? Email address has been provided, but besides email, will there be some kind of community input meeting or anything that's planned up to September? Because I think at other communities it was kind of brought up, that I'm wondering if you guys have anything in plan, or if email is the only thing right now, then, yeah, and in addition to that, I'm wondering if unincorporated residents want to know about updates in regards to street vending, where can they go and check for the most recent update?
I appreciate that. There's not something right now on the agenda around that, but I think we will have conversations. We have had some conversations around this, so I think it would be good to try to do that, to kind of directly incorporate it in. So we'll have some discussions on that, and I'll be in communication with you and then others as well about potentially trying to have a session. It might be virtual and being able to have a time when we can kind of get some engagement around it. So we'll look at doing that. There's nothing right now scheduled, but we can look at it. Was there another question?
Yeah, for the sake of time, I'll open the floor to other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just saying that you can subscribe to our newsletter. You can go to our website, opportunity.lacounty.gov. You can follow us. Econ Ops. So that's a good way to get updates. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and we are subscribed. Yeah. Yeah, last two, Bill and Rick, and then we'll table it tonight.
This is just more of an FYI to you guys, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but through some of our own research, with Bryce and I, we have discovered that there is some regulation, if you will, of some of these vendors in some of the more rougher neighborhoods with street gangs. They actually pay protection orders. And you guys could be potentially inviting that element to our neighborhood. That's something to think about. We have deputies and have police officers making that they know some of that goes on. Throw it out there.
Rick, and then also to address the,
Just a real quick comment. I'm just having flashbacks based on what Tim was saying about Car2Go. And that similar situation with a business like that coming in and doing what he's saying. And are you familiar with Car2Go, what that was about? Where they just put a bunch of cars, and it was business running on the street. So, and there was, we fought back and it went away.
This is kind of a comment question. I noticed there's 3 different agencies involved in this. Does the left hand know what the right hand's doing? Or should there just be one agency maybe handling all of this so that you just have one? You're not going over here for this, over there for that, share for this. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. And so that's why, we, Department of Economic Opportunity, we want to be that point where we're coordinating. It's not one agency that's going to have all the power and authority to do everything, but we can be that coordinating body. We can be that point of reference. So we put up we've got the contact information up there that we read out. Office of Small Business, Department of Economic Opportunity. We can be that main point of contact and coordinate with those agencies. It's still going to be that, depending on what the issue is, it might be within public health, arena, or it might be public works. But we can kind of coordinate that together. So we can have one agency that coordinates and works with. And that's why we have that interagency work group, where yes, we do know what people are doing, we're coordinating, we're going out together, or we're talking about what's happening, and we meet, we're meeting regularly and communicating with all the different agencies. So absolutely, I understand that we definitely want to do. And again, we are a new agency coming into this a little bit new, but that's the role that we're now fulfilling. That's why we came to kind of present on that. That is what we're doing.
I'm so sorry. I actually also wanted to share some other resources. So our Office of Small Business does a lot of different things for the business community. So we have free government contracting assistance for businesses that are interested in doing business with the county, local, state, or federal agencies, how to get certified, how to compete for different government contracting opportunities. what the procurement process might look like and how to best advise you to interact with small business advocates across the state or federal agencies. We also host business resource fairs. We have one coming up in the 25th, which is next week. We have a street vending education seminar, which is one of our first ones at XLA happening. And again, this is part of the education and outreach campaign, is driving and incentivizing vendors who are in compliance to continue to work with us and get access to free resources that assist them on their entrepreneurial growth. I have an overview sheet here, which is available on all of our services. It also has our address information and our contact at the bottom, so if you want to take this flyer just to get our contact info, you are more than welcome. So we do one-on-one business startup assistance for all new entrepreneurs and individuals who are looking to navigate the permanent licensing process for LA County. We also issue all of the certifications for businesses that are doing business in LA County. We also have free legal assistance to small business owners. So this is really rare. Access to legal attorneys can make them much more sound businesses that are more compliant and also have better business strategies for resiliency. So we are working with Bethphoenix and Public Counsel to bring in a webinar. This one is on commercial lease agreements, which we know have been greatly impacted by the pandemic. There's a lot of businesses that were brick and mortar that were struggling to meet commercial tenancy, and that we're trying to support them. So this is the other flyer. There are all of these flyers available, and again, our office does a lot of different things, so please connect with us if you guys have any businesses that you know that will benefit from these resources.
Mary?
No, that was, it's the part of, and that might help you passing through the top of your, luckily, community pushback.
So I want to thank Danny and Jessica for coming over tonight. We are counting on you guys keeping us posted and continuing to do engagement pre and post ordinance. I can see we have a local and active community, so we appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to end this meeting at 8:30, I promise. Please help yourself. We're not necessarily to help yourself after the meeting to the flyers that Jessica mentioned. This board, Bill's not here, Patrick is back there. Our term expires in July of this year. So we're going to be making a call for people to nominate themselves for a vote that will happen during our July meeting. We'll announce this on the webpage, via the mailing list, all the mechanisms that we have to announce it. This is obviously a labor of love, of working with the community. So if you know people that have time, this takes time, that are willing to participate, please have them join, consider joining. Come talk to one of us about what it takes to be on board and be an active member of the community and have a voice and liaise with the county and find out what's going on in our little half square mile of unincorporated Los Angeles County. So with that, I'll leave it to open forum. If anybody has any questions, Maria, just walk on up.
I have been in communication with George Fernandez with traffic, and he had mentioned that in their study that we qualify to get petitions circulated for speed cushions along Ocean Gate, if that is something that residents are interested in. The petition would apply to the residences that face Ocean Gate as well as the corner homes that abut Ocean Gate Avenue. I have been sent that information, so I just thought I'd bring that up to you because it's something that has been talked about, and we've had several requests for traffic studies to get four-way stops. Two of the pending ones are at 134th Street and Ocean Gate, and 140th Street and Ocean Gate. And those are, 140th is, for me, is the one that you kind of have to guess if you're going to make it or not. And so I'm very excited that that is coming, hopefully, this year. So I'm just throwing it out there. This information I just received yesterday. I just got the email today. So in speaking with Eddie, we'd like to go and poll the residents
We're gonna knock out some Ocean Gate doors.
and see if we have enough, definitely to impact the traffic in our area. We get a lot of pass-through traffic that definitely impacts our safety on an everyday basis. So just us driving slowly through the neighborhood isn't a deterrent for a lot of people. But hopefully this will bring some safety if it does, does work out. Thank you.
That's right on Ocean Gate?
Speed cushions.
Speed cushions?
Yes, they're not speed bumps, they're smaller. I didn't get the renditions yet, but that's what we're looking at.
They're gonna be more like Tic Tacs almost,
The ones that look like Tic Tacs?
No, they're like the blocks, I believe they're like the blocks where you can still cross, but
So not a continuous speed bump, I think we were just describing, but a block, a segmented block. They're called speed cushions. When we get the renditions, we'll send it out to the community so you have an idea. I didn't know the term either. So, anyone else? Any other questions?
I'm gonna pass, I think I sent Eddie the information, that there was some kind of survey from the county, and I had mentioned it to Ara, but I didn't receive anything from the county. It was just a screenshot I got from someone about something going on with the South Bay Council of Governments. So if you have that information, Ara, official information to pass along to us so that our neighbors can be made aware and we can participate in that survey, that would be great.
Okay, I just emailed back to you because I don't think I can talk from you, but I'll get further information and we'll pass it to Eddie.
Great, I just think that that's something that needs to come from you because I got it as a screenshot from like Facebook. And it should come from you because you are constituent representative for our area. Thank you.
I sent the follow-up email to you, but okay, yeah.
Anyone else? All right. Meeting adjourned. One last thing. We are going to try and do a national night out in August at the Ocean Gate Church. So I don't know if we have Harley on board yet, but she was here earlier. We're going to try and sweet talk her because she's a good organizer at getting that event. National Night Out. I think it's the first or second Tuesday of August. Second Tuesday, thank you. The second Tuesday of August at the Ocean Gate Church in partnership with law enforcement, usually fire, highway patrol, LA Sheriff, and then local nonprofits usually have a table there and maybe some jumpers and things for the kids. All right? Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.